So in 1828, Andrew Jackson reruns for president, and he defeats a measly John Quincy Adams in a pretty big landslide, really, if you think about it. And part of it was a lot of American public had become dissatisfied with the weakness that John Quincy Adams' presidency had shown. But otherwise, though, Andrew Jackson had run on a campaign that he was the common man. And if you look at his inauguration, if you read historical texts about it, it kind of reminds me of the movie Happy Gilmore. If you've ever seen it, if not, pull it up on Netflix or something of the sort. Otherwise, though, Happy Gilmore is a hockey player who, through various circumstances, goes into professional golf, and he draws a following that's not typical of golf. You have more commoners, more Bud Light drinking commoners, as opposed to your pimento cheese eating golf crowd. And it really shook up the movie. It really shook up the golf crowd. That's what Andrew Jackson's inauguration was like. Um, the White House lawn was kind of stormed with kind of common folk eager to meet the new president. He's one of us, that sort of a thing. Andrew Jackson represented a break from the norm. He represented the era of the common man, where previously people who, white men who were from very wealthy backgrounds, typically East Coast backgrounds, were the ones who had all the power. Andrew Jackson is about to change all of that. So, what you see is, unlike all the prior presidents, they were all from the East, they were all well educated, they all had status, they all had an elitism about them that didn't connect with the average American man in that sense. They all had mass amounts of wealth. They had perhaps a lot of land. Maybe they came from more of this somewhat noble status that didn't connect. Andrew Jackson is going to change all of that. So even though, as Andrew Jackson grew up and he eventually became involved in politics and moved between the Carolinas and Tennessee, he himself would eventually own quite a significant amount of land, including a number of slaves and things along those lines. However, he was a war hero from the War of 1812, as even though the battle technically occurred after the peace had been signed, the Battle of New Orleans, Andrew Jackson led a ragtag group of American militia troops and otherwise, and they forced the British down the Mississippi River and really took them by storm, forcing their hand. He became an overnight war sensation and a war hero. And the troops loved him, even though he was crass and had a really different, unconventional style. The troops loved him and even gave him the nickname Old Hickory because of it. Otherwise, though, his mass popularity really helped him to connect to common folks who did not come from wealthy situations. And that really helped him to understand exactly where we were going as a country and what necessarily needed to happen in order to affect change. And so Andrew Jackson really took the country by storm. And in doing so, he really shook up the political scene, and he developed a lot of different enemies as well. So we're going to continue talking about that. Otherwise, though, Andrew Jackson's presidency was marked with several different things. We're going to talk about his Native American policy. We're going to talk about his opinions and his actions in regard to the Bank of the United States. We're going to talk about his Specie Circular. We're going to talk about how he had mass opposition from an opposing political party. We're going to talk about all those different things because they all make him significantly different.